Hi, everybody. Welcome again. Sports and Shorts of Sorts. Episode 22, yo. Let's jump right into the jerseys. When I think of number 22, I think of the NFL all time rushing yards leader or winner of the third season of Dancing with the Stars. I'm talking Emmitt Smith. Smith was a workhorse at the running back position. Teams nowadays, they wouldn't know what to do with Emmitt Smith. Like this guy just ran all the time. His longevity is unmatched. He did what he had to do. He won 3 Super Bowls with those Cowboy teams, teamed up with Aikman and Michael Irvin. He was the MVP in Super Bowl 28. He won Rookie of the Year when he came right into the league. He was the MVP of the league in 93. Led the league in rushing on 3 occasions, touchdowns on 3 occasions. He spent pretty much his whole career in Dallas, like 13 of his 15 seasons, but spent his last 2 as a Cardinal, not in the church, but with Arizona. It was very weird to see him in those colors, but he just wanted to keep playing. Good on him for that. Easy induction to the Hall of Fame. And there's another good 22 that played in Dallas as well. Bullet Bob Hayes. He is the only athlete to win an Olympic gold medal and a Super Bowl ring. He's a super track superstar at Texas A&M. He went to the 64 Olympics in Tokyo, won a gold in the 100 meters as well as in the 4x100 relay. And then that same year, he was drafted by the Cowboys and used that speed to become, one of the greatest receivers of his era. His ridiculous speed made teams develop the bump and run. If you don't put your hands on anybody, they're going to go right by you. And that's what Hayes did. He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well as the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool. Like I said, you don't hear that often. And I thought I had all my NFL 22s covered, and then I forgot Paul Krause. He's the NFL all-time interceptions leader at 81. He's drafted by Washington, spent most of his career in Minnesota, made 8 Pro Bowls. His bus sits in Canton. He is something else. And we'll jump to the hardwood. Clyde the Glide Drexler. He was a stud in college, playing aside Akeem Olajuwon at the University of Houston, where they had this sick nickname, the Phi Slamma Jamma. Never won that title in college. You'd make the Final Four twice, and then they'd lose in one of the biggest upsets in NCAA history to North Carolina State. Everyone's seen the video with Jimmy Valvano running around like a maniac, but Drexler would be drafted by the Trailblazers, go in the NBA. He spent most of his career there. Get to the finals twice. You might remember him losing to the Bulls with the Jordan shrug. He also lost to the Pistons in 90, but 95, Drexler, he wanted to trade, and he went to the defending champ Houston Rockets, where teamed up again with Olajuwon, and they'd win a title as a 6 seed, which doesn't happen very often. They swept Penny and Shaq in the finals, and but yeah, Drexler, 10 All-Star games. He's a member of the 50th, 75th anniversary teams, Hall of Famer, part of the Dream Team in the 92 Barcelona Olympics. Pretty good career. He was always overshadowed by Michael Jordan, but who wasn't? But his 22 is retired in the University of Houston and with the Blazers and with the Rockets, even though he only had a few years there. But they did get that title. And another 22 on the court, Elgin Baylor, one of the first true high flyers of the NBA. I love looking into sports history. I don't know. I wish that was like a course you could take somewhere, but it's always cool reading about those early NBA teams. And like, he was drafted by the Lakers when they were still in Minneapolis. So the team was on collapse and they needed a star. George Mikan had just retired, and Elgin Baylor like saved this team. He won Rookie of the Year, got to the Lakers into the finals his rookie year. Like, and they lost to the Celtics, as they always appeared to do. They moved to LA. They drafted the logo, Jerry West. That's right. If you didn't know, Jerry West is the logo. If you see the picture, it makes sense. And they were one of the best duos ever, but they just couldn't get past the Celtics or the Knicks ones. But Elgin Baylor's final record of 0-7. Oi, oi, oi. He's got that moniker, best to ever win a title. Nobody wants that. But regardless of never getting that ring, he's one of the best to play. He was the first to score 70 points in a game. He scored 61 in a finals game, a record that still stands today. So, very impressive. Last Hooper I'll mention, he had a few different numbers, but he's worn the 22 recently. I'm talking Jimmy Buckets, right? Jimmy Butler went on that crazy big run with Heat culture. But yeah, one of those competitive guys that just wills you to victory. He's lost twice in the finals now, so he might be a little tarnished if he doesn't get one. He might have that other moniker. That's to never win a title, but yeah, it's tough. Hopefully, we'll see what they do. They're still talking Damian Lillard going there. We haven't heard much of that, thank God, in a while, but yeah, good on him. And you know what? Actually, I will mention another hooper from the women's game, Asia Wilson, two-time MVP. She's won WNBA title. She's won an NCAA title. She's good on both sides of the floor. Good leader. And then I'll mention a college hooper, Caitlin Clark from Iowa. Oh, can't wait to watch college hoops this fall to see her light it up. If you haven't watched her play, tune in to watch her play with Iowa. She's something else. And I'll just mention a baseball player here, Clayton Kershaw, right? Rocks the 22. May be one of the best pitchers of his generation. He's finally got that elusive World Series in 2020 because he was known as a guy that choked in the playoffs, right? But that really got the monkey off his back. But he's won 3 Cy Young awards. He's won an MVP, and we know as a pitcher that's not always easy to do. But, Dallas-born pitcher will be a first-born Hall of Famer when I think it's all said and done. And then we'll jump to another great pitcher. Excuse me, Jim Palmer, the Baltimore Orioles. 3-time World Series winner, 3 ALs, Cy Young awards. His number 22 is retired by the Orioles. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Current player rocking the 22. Andrew McCutchen, he's won the MVP with Pittsburgh. They love him in Pittsburgh. I'm sure this guy will make the Hall of Fame. I think he'll be close, but with some of the guys getting in of late, I think he'll be in there. It'll be close, like I said. And we'll jump to the ice to mention number 22 quick. Mike Bossy, winning 4 straight Stanley Cups. That's crazy. In 80, 81, 82, and 83. 7 All-Star games, winning the Lady Byng 3 times, Calder once. He also won Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy. So that's pretty good. And he was a Mike Bossy. But yeah, pretty impressive. Oh, excuse me. Well, before I jump to the current sporting events, I have to give a shout out to Sports Grids. These ImmaculateGrid.com. It's a super easy game. All it is, there's 9 squares, and there'll be teams on the horizontal and the vertical. My goodness. I apologize. I'm going to have a sip of this coffee. Much better. But yeah, simple game. You have that on the top and the bottom, and you'll just have to fill in the squares. Sounds super easy. Kind of lame, but for sports nerds, it's really fun. And they have like hockey, baseball, basketball, and football. So try it out. Let me know how you do. It's pretty good. But all right, let's jump into the nitty gritty here. One of the biggest things happening in the world right now, right? FIFA Women's World Cup. Last episode, I hyped up big Canada game against Australia, only for them to get massacred 4-0 and get kicked out. But yikes. But yeah, I'll just round up the end of group play real quick because it got pretty wild. Group C was real easy. It was won by Japan. Spain went with them. Excuse me. Group D, same thing. England won the group. Denmark second. Haiti played great for being how they were to get there in that group. They did phenomenal. Group E was kind of dramatic. The Dutch won the group, and the Americans needed to draw or better against Portugal. Portugal hit the post in the last second, but it wasn't enough. U.S. went on. Group F joined in on the dramatics. France won the group. Second was up. Everyone thought Brazil was going to get through, and they needed to beat Jamaica to advance. But the Reggae Girls, they showed determination, held on, scoreless draw against Brazil. Knocking out Brazil, which was crazy. But see Marta get knocked out. She's one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT. But if you have to look up Jamaica's story, it's crazy. They disbanded in 2010. They had to get resurrected. They needed a GoFundMe just to get to the World Cup. So hopefully they can get paid because, you gotta fund them. I know people are like, well, it's a money thing. Where is it coming from? But just fund these women. They're good at what they do, and if they're put on the stage to perform, they're performing. Let them do it. Let them have the stage. But yeah, it's just Marta gave a great speech after she got eliminated. The Brazilian legend. She said when she started playing, there were no women to look up to. She had nobody. Now these youngsters, she was just listing off names, and it's true. It's great that people now can see, hey, I can make the Women's World Cup and do what I got to do. They can look up to players like Marta and Christine Sinclair, and like when they started, who did they have to look up to? So good on that. But weird to see Brazil go. But and yeah, Group G had some surprises as well. Sweden dominated the group, and everyone thought Italy would advance with them, but South Africa ended up taking that second spot. They scored in like the 92nd minute to advance. Like drama right there. And Group H saw that, and they were like, "Here, hold my beer." Biggest shock of the tournament. Number 2 ranked Germany. Oh, my dad's side. All the Germany's gone. They knocked out. They needed a win against South Korea, and they could not get it. So Colombia and Morocco went on, and this is something I did not expect to see, like a lot of Goliaths getting the David treatment. 3 of the top teams sent home packing at the group stages. Germany at number 2, Canada at 7, Brazil at 8. All these commercials have players from those teams. So, yeah, it's rough, but it's parity and it shows other teams, like the Jamaican team or the Nigerian. It shows off some of these teams that, maybe didn't get a chance to before. So it went from that to the round of 16. And, Spain beat Switzerland bad 5-1, easily dismantling them. Japan took care of Norway. There was a bad own goal in that, some bad defense. But, yeah, Japan played great. And then Netherlands, they took on the surprising South African team. There's some historic history between those two. But the Dutch end up beating South Africa 2-0 to advance. And one of the matches that were very hyped up, well, especially here in North America because of the U.S. and they're very talented, defending champs here. So they were playing Sweden, and no goals in 90 minutes, but it's surprising how there wasn't. The Swedish keeper, Musovic, was denying everything. Every shot, she'd parry it away. The next game went to extra time, nothing. Then boom, we'd go to penalties. And like each team was scoring right off the bat, and then Sweden, boom, kicked theirs way over the net. You're like, whoa! It's opened up the door for the U.S. And look who's walking up: Megan Rapinoe, a legend, and perhaps her last World Cup ever. She comes up and she kicks it way over the net. Oh, she was grinning. She said, "Are you serious? When potentially my last game, this is what I do." And then the Swedes had a chance to, okay, here we go, let's tie it up. American keeper stopped it. You're like, oh my God, Sophia Smith can come up and win it now for the U.S. as she hit it over the net. Sweden converted their 5th kick, and then we went sudden death. O'Hara comes up for the Americans, hits the post, opening the door for Sweden to win. Hurtig takes the shot. It's saved by the U.S. keeper, but it kind of spins, and as it spins back, she bats it away. But it looked fairly close to the line, so everyone kind of froze. And then we went to the VAR where they'd have to review it to see if the ball fully passed the line. Because in order for it to be a goal, the entirety of the ball has to pass the goal line. And it came down to a millimeter. That Sweden, they won based on that goal. They needed that goal to win the game. The penalty went off the hand, like I said. She batted it, but it passed the line. And it's kind of ironic that the Americans lost by a term of measurement they don't even use. But yeah, a millimeter is all it was. But huge win for Sweden. Huge disappointment for the U.S. This is the first time they'll never make the semifinals. So yeah, a lot of young players on that team coming up. Few people retiring like Rapinoe. So yeah, like I said, craziness in this tournament. And the next round of 16 that occurred, it also has roots. Canada is gone, right? I'm Canadian, Germany, my dad's side. But England, the Euro champs, are still in, and they took on Nigeria, right? Wow, Nigeria, they were so inspired. The way they play is amazing. They should have got some goals in the 90 minutes. There were none. The only big action was in the 85th minute. England star Lauren James stomped on Michelle Alozie. She was laying on the ground. And totally unnecessary, totally dirty, just cleats on her back. There was a yellow. They checked it, upgraded to red. She was gone, just like that. And then we went to penalties again, and England would win 4-2, taking the game. They're not going to have Lauren James for the next game because she'll have a suspension. But Big win for England, but wow, big ups to Nigeria for how they played. Fantastic. Fund them. Anyway, there's Australia versus Denmark, Colombia, Jamaica, France, Morocco, and that's it for the round of 16. Then we're on to the quarters on Thursday. But more footy coming up. The top level leagues haven't started yet. Like the Premier League starts next weekend. But the leagues below it, we're starting. Wrexham had their first EFL game in a long time. Didn't go their way. They lost 5-3. Definitely missing Super Paul Mullen, who picked up that injury playing exhibition games in the States. But the UPL did have their Community Shield, where you have the Premier League winners, Man City, taking on FA Cup winners, which also happen to be Man City. So they ended up choosing Arsenal. I had to look up how does this work because I didn't understand it. But in that instance, where a team wins the Premier League and the FA Cup, they take the second place team in the Premier League to play them, and that's how they got there. And it was cool to see Premier League players playing again because you're watching these other leagues, and I don't know, I really like the level of the Premier League. And Man City went ahead first off Cole Palmer, curling one in the net, and it looked like the game was over. We were deep in the extra time, past the given time. We were in the 101st minute, and Trossard just drilled the ball, took some ricochets, like a game of pinball, went in the back of the net. Even more penalties. It was a penalty. Penalties were in the air, and Arsenal ended up winning, winning some hardware for the trophy case, giving Man City their third straight loss in the Community Shield. So, wow. But, hey, exciting. Like I said, next week, I think Friday will be the first game Premier League's back. So, back again. But anyway, we'll leave the footy from your foot to the American footy because I got to talk college sports real quick. What is happening? The Pac-12, by the time this is done, the Pac-12 may not exist. It is down to a four-pack. Washington State, Oregon State, University of Cal, and Stanford are all that remain. And everyone's jumped ship. I guess that they don't have a TV deal right now. There's talks they'd get a deal through Apple Plus, and like all the other teams were like, whoa, this isn't a real deal. This is just, a streaming site. No, no, no. So everyone's like, I'm out. And without a current TV deal in place, teams can jump ship without having to pay out money. So free leaving. And yeah, everyone's done it. Arizona State, and Utah will be joining the Big 12. University of Oregon, University of Washington will be joining the Big Ten. So this all comes after Colorado just announced they're going back to the Big 12. And last year, UCLA and USC announced they were leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. And we got to stop calling them these numbers. The Big Ten's got to be close to 20 now or over. The Pac-12 is 4. The Big 12, I don't even know what the hell they're at. So maybe we can think of some better names for these once everyone's got their TV deals figured out. But there's no regional conferences anymore. It's widespread across the map, and it was nice for the regional stuff because not everything's about football. It makes a lot of money for the college, and they fly out and play a game once a week. But for the smaller sports that don't get the popularity that football does, like maybe volleyball or wrestling, or these people have to go, fly cross country now, I guess. And then the middle of the week, so then doing schoolwork and come back and I don't know, rather than a bus to a place an hour away where, we're going to have UCLA playing Maryland in a conference game, which does not make much sense at all. But I don't think they were really thinking about those teams. They were just thinking about money and these TV deals and the amount of money getting thrown around. But like I said, the Pac-12 might not even exist by the time this drops. I was looking up some stuff like the old Southwest Conference. It was a conference that, had some pretty big schools in it, and they ceased to exist in '96. We'll see what the last four schools in the Pac-12 do. Like I said, Stanford's a big one. That's a big brand. Like, I could see maybe the Big Ten scooping them up because, like I said, big brand, big money. People love money. Everything comes down to money, right? Oy vey. But anyway, we'll jump to the MLB here. There's the trade deadline came and went. Biggest news is out of the Big Apple. The hey big spender, New York Mets decide to become sellers, and they offloaded their two aging aces to the AL West. Max Scherzer is going to be a Texas Ranger. Justin Verlander, he's going back to Houston to have a problem. That's where he won a ring. he wants to recapture that play. And like these pitchers were expecting the battle for playoffs, just not against each other in the same division on different teams. But hey, that's what happens. The Phillies acquired Michael Lorenzen from the Tigers. He was an all-star this season. The Orioles acquired Jack Flaherty from the St. Louis Cardinals. Blue Jays acquired Paul DeJong from the Cardinals. I'll get into that a little more. And in an odd move, considered by some, Tigers pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez imposed his no-trade clause to go to the Dodgers so he could stay and play in Detroit. He's probably not going to make the playoffs, but he cited a desire to stay on the East Coast and be with his family. You know, it wasn't a money thing or whatever. But also big news in baseball earlier this week. Astros lefty Framber Valdez threw his first career no-hitter of the season. Third of the MLB season over the Guardians, and he only did 93 pitches, which is pretty wild. Fewest since in the last 24 years in a no-hitter. But sticking with baseball, the Jays, they knew it was a big series against the Orioles, and the Orioles have kind of been the bully, stuffing the Jays into the locker this season, and that's kind of what continued. The first game featured Jays leaving guys on base, and Ryan Mountcastle picking up RBIs. Bo Bichette pulled up running. It looked pretty bad initially, I'm not going to lie. Luckily, they said it was no structural damage, and he was out for a bit, and hence why they made that trade I mentioned earlier for DeJong. But hopefully he's not out too long because he's having a phenomenal year. He was leading the league, the AL in hits, so I hope he comes back sooner than later at 100%. But yeah, they lost 4-2 that first game. Second game, we had some good vibes going in. Ryu was coming back after his long absence, and Baltimore killed those vibes, including a grand slam in the eighth by Santander. They ended up winning 13-3. Third game, the Jays actually did win one. They had some wackiness go down in the sixth where, you know, a few hit by pitches helped them score, an error. So they won that one 4-1. But then Jack Flaherty would make his debut for the Orioles, and they'd take that. So Orioles beat the Jays 3 out of 4. Not ideal. And the Jays, you know, they're like, oh, woe is me. We can't beat anyone in the AL East. Bang. Until they played Boston. They went into Beantown, like I said, needing this win. They just lost 3 of 4 against AL East. Baltimore, they had to do something. And who would be the spark? Our mustachioed man, Davis Schneider. This guy, he comes in, his second MLB swing goes yard. That kind of magic helped the Jays take the first one 7-3. Game 2, continue the Schneider magic. He goes 3 for 3. It looked like the Jays were going to blow it in the ninth inning. Connor Wong, looks like he crushed it deep. He's watching it. Kiermaier jumps into the wall, catches it. Reese McGuire's already running home like, hey, we won. Turns around. Kiermaier catches it, throws it to second because obviously McGuire didn't tag up. And a very unconventional double play, but a very much needed win for the Jays. Boston fans, ouch. Jay fans, yay, because that was rough. What a wild M. Night Shyamalan twist there. Sunday was an earlier game. Jays were like, hey, we can sweep this thing. And they got a baker's dozen on the Sox, going for 13-1. And our mustachioed man, David Schneider, made some MLB history. First player with 9 hits and 2 home runs in his first 3 games. So that's pretty dope. Quick turnaround. They'll leave Beantown and head over to Cleveland to face the Guardians in a 4-game series, and that starts Monday. But yeah, with all this starting to take shape, Baltimore taking 3 out of 4 in Toronto. They're still atop the AL East. Rangers and Astros, the new teams with new pitchers, they are battling out for that AL West title. It's real tight, but don't overlook Seattle. They just did some damage on the Angels in a 4-game series, and so they're in there too. But the AL Central only has one team over 500. It's the division-leading Twins. Wild card spots are being held by the Rays, Astros, and Blue Jays. But like I said, the Mariners, they're only 2.5 back of Toronto now for the wild card. So they're in it there. And in the National League, the Braves are still way atop the NL East in the league. And then the Dodgers have taken grip on the NL West. Arizona's been god-awful since the All-Star break. And I don't know if San Fran can catch them in the division. And then the NL Central's gone wild. The Cubs, who looked hibernating earlier, have awoken, and they're tied with the Reds for just a game and a half back of Milwaukee. So that really turned interesting. the wild card spots in the NL. The Phillies are there. The just before mentioned Giants and the Cubs and Reds are tied for that last spot. But like the season doesn't end until October 1st, so there's plenty of ball to be played. But there was a funny thing during that AL Central matchup this week with the White Sox and the Guardians. Jose Ramirez of the Guardians slides in the second. He was tagged out hard by Tim Anderson, who's kind of standing over him. And Ramirez was like, hey, fuck this. They stood up and started chirping each other. And all of a sudden, they start squaring up like 30 style boxing, like put up your dukes. And the ump was breaking it up until they pulled their dukes out. And then they the ref backed up, the ump backed up and looked like he was a fighting ref. And they kind of went into it. Ramirez came with a hook, hit Anderson, put him right on his butt. It was pretty good. It reminded me of the Obrador Batista punch because it was such a nice clean punch that Anderson kind of timbered back. And it was, I don't know, it was a nicer punch than you would have saw in the Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight, which also went down on the weekend. And I didn't watch it personally. I watched the highlights and there are a few moments, I guess, but it's still, it went the distance. Paul won by decision over, they got paid. That's one thing, they did get some big money for it. Love him or hate him, he got paid. We'll jump to some NFL news. Yay, it's coming. I feel like Game of Thrones when you're like, it's coming. But Hall of Fame, celebrations went down Canton, Ohio. They had some preseason game. Woo! Jets and Browns went on, to honor a few of the guys going in. And it was a preseason game, not much craziness, you had the excitement of it coming back. And the Jets are going to be on Hard Knocks. That's starting this week, actually. So that'll be exciting to see the drama in the locker room. There's always drama with Aaron Rodgers, so it'll be interesting to see. But the Hall of Famers that were enshrined, you had Joe Thomas, Rondé Barber. I mentioned him on episode 20 because that was his jersey. Coach Don Coryell, Darrelle Revis, of Revis Island fame, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, DeMarcus Ware, Ken Riley, and one of my dad's favorite linebackers with the Dolphins, Zach Thomas. But there were a few cool parts of some of the speeches. Like Joe Thomas mentioned how, he was always there for his team and his 10,363 consecutive snap streak. That's how many snaps he played in a row. Amazing. And Revis shouted out Revis Island, of course, and how there'd be no Revis Island if it wasn't for prime time. So honoring Deion Sanders. And then DeMarcus Ware, his pretty moving part, how we had 3 seats reserved for teammates who had passed away way too soon. Demarius Thomas, dead at 33, discovered to have a seizure. That's how he was found. Ronnie Hillman, dead at 31 due to a rare form of kidney cancer. Marion Barber, dead at 38, discovered dead due to heat stroke. He was known to work out in extreme temperatures. And yeah, it just makes you put things into perspective. But wow. Sticking with football, more local football. Week 9 of the CFL went down. Started off ugly. Blue Bombers bombed the hell out of the Lions, 50-14. Calgary surprised the Argonauts 20-7, giving Toronto their first loss of the year. The TSN turning point, if you would have been off a muff punt where, the Toronto guy went to receive the punt, and it just went in the end zone. And yeah, touchdown, turned the whole game, gave Toronto their first loss, and the quarterback also went down, which didn't help. Alouettes beat on the Ticats 27-14, and then finale of the weekend was in Regina, and looked like they had a good hold on things against Ottawa, but Ottawa came back, went ahead with a little over a minute to go before Brett Lather bombed a 54-yarder to win the game and snap the Riders' 3-game losing streak. Jump into the court, we're going to mention some WNBA real quick. Some history being made. Diana Taurasi, the GOAT, became the first WNBA player to reach 10,000 points. She needed 18, which, wasn't always easy, and they brought a petting zoo of goats into the arena. They had banners, no pressure, but all she did was respond with 42 points in the 20-point victory. So good on the GOAT doing GOAT things. And another WNBA mentioned, there was a really good matchup Sunday on paper. You had defending champs, Las Vegas Aces, against New York Liberty, who created the super team. Their combined win-loss record is 45-8. first quarter was living up back and forth. Jonquil Jones hit Asia Wilson, who I mentioned at the top of the show, with a sick elbow in the nose, getting a flagrant. Nice physical play. Then the second half, shit went wild. I don't know what happened, but the Liberty made the Aces look like chopped liver, outscoring them 50-17. Sabrina Ionescu just went nuts, hitting threes from everywhere. It was some good ball, but then it got kind of out of hand. And NBA news: Anthony Davis signed a 3-year contract extension worth 186 million, about 62 million a season, richest in NBA history. Hopefully, he'll stay on the court and live up to that. That's big money. But Cleveland Cavalier guard Ricky Rubio, he's taking a break from basketball to focus on mental health. He was supposed to be playing with Spain in the upcoming World Cup here at the end of the month, but I don't know. He's got to do what he's got to do. What's best for him, and if he feels this is what he's got to do, good on him. And the NHL big trade happened. Erik Karlsson is leaving San Jose, and he's going to Pittsburgh. 3-team trade. Montreal was also involved, but yeah, that'll be wild to see Crosby and Karlsson on the same team. Crazy. Probably be good things out of them. And a quick Messi shout out, or Messi watch. Man, he's just tearing it up over here in North America. 2 goals in his last League Cup game, and then another 2 goals in the round of 16 in the League Cup, helping Inter Miami advance on penalties. So, Lionel Messi, another GOAT doing GOAT things. I feel like this is an animal show with all the GOAT talks. But speaking of GOAT talk, let's jump to this short. We'll get to another maybe Toronto GOAT, but we're talking a lot of baseball, as should, it's the summer game. If it wasn't for the Women's World Cup being a big part of it, that'd be taking up a lot of news. But we're talking wild card spots. We're talking Blue Jays a lot because, that's a team I rooted for when I was younger, and getting back into watching ball. I enjoy watching them. And went to a game with my dad once, and then I went to another game when someone in a previous relationship, she had won a contest through Weber Naturals. And it was a trip to Toronto to watch the Jays take on the Yankees. And your hotel was paid for, flight was paid for 4 people. I was like, holy shit. She's like, oh yeah, and you get to throw out the first pitch. I was like, whoa, hold up. What? But yeah, she didn't want to throw it out, so she said, oh, can the guy throw it? And the people in the contest were like, sure. So I was like, all right, we got Joe Carter jerseys. See, it's one I'm wearing now. Joe Carter. So that was pretty cool. And not only do you get Joe Carter jersey, you get to meet Joe Carter. He's going to chill in the owner's box. Get to watch the game from the owner's box. Free food, free booze, and throwing out the first pitch. This was like ridiculous. It was kind of surreal. And like you got to go down and watch batting practice. You can see Derek Jeter, A-Rod. It's like, holy shit. And then Joe Carter comes up and he's like, hey, let's warm that arm up. And I'm like, what? So I am playing catch with Joe Carter. Like, what? Is this real life? I was like, hey, Joe, do you think I got a chance? Because we're playing catch. He's like, oh, you're not a lefty, are you? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, definitely not. So, ouch, but I appreciate the honesty. So, when it came down to throw the first pitch, I was getting, a lot of butterflies going. And, like, worst shoe choice. I don't know. I wanted to look suave or something. I had these, like, gator looking shoes. I don't think they were real gator. Fake gator, faux gator. I don't know. They looked ridiculous in hindsight. But, I've only worn them a few times. I don't even know where the hell they are now. Probably got rid of them. I don't know. But, I wore them. And, start walking up after they're introducing us. And, it's like, Ready Rickay from Saskatoon. And you can hear, like, crickets. You can hear maybe the group in the owner's box clapping. And that's about it. Then they introduced Joe Carter, and holy shit, it went crazy. But deservedly so. Joe Carter hit the walk-off home run that clinched the 93 World Series. Like, I remember watching that as a little pup. So, yeah, amazing. He deserves to be a legend there. And, a little overshadowed by him. But, go up there to the mound. And they wouldn't allow me to stand on the mound. They're like, it's got to be in immaculate shape. They had it covered. So I stood in front of the mound and I threw my pitch. I don't have a great arm by any means, but it was a little high. Toronto Ace at the time, Ricky Romero caught it. It's kind of cool to like meet him and shit. And the only bad thing is, if you look at Ricky Romero's career, after he caught my first pitch, his career kind of nosedive. I'm not saying I'm a cursor or I gave him a curse, but the numbers don't lie. So I apologize if I've ruined his career. I did not mean to with my pitch, but he had one All Star appearance before the catch. Definitely not one after. But anyway, after that pitch, go back up to the owner's box. Everyone's chilling, mingling. Joe Carter's hanging out. Really a surreal experience, which is another reminder, everyone out there, enter every contest. Maybe not everyone I enter, I'm greedy, but enter every contest you can. They got to pick someone. Why not you, right? Hey, well, thanks for coming along. That's episode 22. 22 in the book. Sorry, I don't know why I went to the Rick Ross there, but yeah, episode 22 in the books. Thanks again for joining. I hope everyone's having a great long weekend. Rencity out.